Congress realized that they finally have a job to do. There's a war on algae, and Tulsi Gabbard's in a cult, I believe. Welcome to the Polypolitics Show. I'm your host, Christopher Turner. Welcome in. Welcome to the Polypolitics Podcast. I'm your host, Christopher Turner, where opinions are challenged and facts matter. A place for honest conversations and unfiltered perspectives. You remember the SAVE Act? Because the SAVE Act was like the biggest thing in the news and social media everywhere for a good month, I think it was, right? And it was all over. It was talking about how it was going to take away, the right to vote from women, from multiple different people, anybody that didn't have access to certain documents. And that was true. That was going to happen. But do you notice how it just kind of disappeared? Like we haven't heard anything about it in a while, right? It just kind of disappeared. The war in Iran was going off, ballrooms, reflecting pools, assassination attempts, everything. But the SAVE Act just kind of disappeared. We just stopped kind of hearing about it, right? Well, it just popped back up like just recently this week because Senate Republicans kind of called the administration and it was like, hey, you should stop talking about this. This is not good. Like, just stop talking about it. We don't really want to pass it, and you keep talking about it, and it's kind of putting us in a rough spot. It's putting you in a rough spot. There's just like little tiny crack in the administration, this little tiny knot that's just kind of breaking them apart. Now, granted, Republicans have tried to do things to put parts of that in regardless, right? They've tried to use the SAVE database to do immigration checks on voter rolls. A federal judge just blocked that. They've tried to take voter rolls, private, personal, sensitive information about everybody, and they've tried to take that and federalize it. Judges have blocked that. Now states are standing up against it. But what we're seeing is this like little tiny revolt from the Republican Party, right? Now, granted, it took the Trump administration literally primarying a bunch of their friends for them to try to stand up for American rights. But there was a new AP NORC poll that just came out. And I think it's really important because it talked about freedoms under the Constitution and what Americans really feel about that, right? And over 90% of them said that is like one of the most important things to like being American, that we need those rights. And less than a third of them said they weren't under attack. Yeah, that's right. Like 2/3 of them said that these rights were under attack. Things like the right to vote, things like the right to free speech. We can probably do a whole episode just on the right to free speech. But it just seems like these little tiny things. We saw things like the Voting Rights Act be, pushed back by the Supreme Court. Justice Scalia, he's been wanting to overturn that for a long time. But we're starting to see these little cracks in the Republican stronghold. They're starting to see these little pushbacks in a midterm year, right? We're seeing people like Tom Tillis start to push back. We're starting to see people like Bill Cassidy start to pull back. And then just this week, just recently, they have come back and said, hey, this war in Iran, you actually need congressional approval for this. Because they've been saying that they don't, like they've been kind of just ignoring it, being like, oh yeah, it's just a special military conflict or whatever. But what they're seeing now is this new MOU. They call it a ceasefire. It's not an MOU, or they call it a peace deal. It's kind of like a ceasefire. It's more of an MOU, just like, oh, we're going to just give you some stuff. Let's kind of talk about things later. But this entire MOU is just a wish list. It's just a Christmas list. It's all the things that Iran could ever want and dream of. It's just, oh, here's all the money. Here's all the release of sanctions. Here's everything. And then, and then Israel goes and bombs Lebanon. And Iran's like, oh, we're not going to agree. This is a break of the ceasefire, right? And JD Vance has to get on a plane, fly to Switzerland and just grovel, just on his knees, just beg, like, please, Iran, please, we'll give you more. We'll give you more, just whatever you want. Just please don't close the strait again. And Congress is like, you know what? I think we need to put some checks on this. Because one of the foreign ministers for Iran came out and was like, yeah, we're going to do whatever we want with this money. Like, we don't care. Like, you're saying we can only do it with this. That we're going to do whatever we want with this money. We're going to rebuild our military. We're going to do all, undo all the stuff you destroyed. We're going to do it. They're one of the world's largest funders of terrorism. They're not saying they're not going to use that. So what we have now is a Congress that's saying that we need to be the ones that declare war, right? The Senate voted 50-48. Again, I think a couple Republicans voted with the Democrats in order to do this. And they just passed it. It's going to go to the White House. Who knows what's going to happen from there, right? The question is now is how far does this divide go? Are we going to see Republicans start to break with them more? What happens in the midterms? Because I'm telling you right now, I don't think the midterms are going to be very good for Republicans. I really, really don't. I don't think they're going to be very good for them because I think the people are sick and tired of seeing this, right? Because it's crap. It's BS. It's democracy completely destroyed. It's one 80-year-old, right? And all of those Biden people that were like, oh, Biden can't be president. Donald Trump is 80 years old, okay? And he's acting 80 years old. He just had a press conference. We'll play the clip in a second. But he's had a press conference where he's reading a speech. It's cryptography. Well, we have some cool. Actually, play the clip.
We're going to be investing in American quantum leadership like never before to stay ahead of the pack. We're way ahead right now. We'll keep it that way. The second order I'm signing directs federal agency to transition to what is called quantum cryptography. Do anybody know what that is? You're going to hear very soon, so you're going to find it interesting. Cryptography.
Look, I'm not one to say that Biden was a perfect person. I'm not saying that he was, young enough to be president. He wasn't. We need to completely destroy this gerontocracy that we have in the United States, right? He was too old, but he was too old and did a whole bunch of really good stuff. Donald Trump is too old and doing a whole bunch of really bad stuff, right? And it's about time that Congress checks him because that's what Congress is there for. That's what the Constitution put them there for. They put the Supreme Court, they put the legislative branch, they put Congress, they put the executive branch as three separate co-equal branches so that when we see crazy stuff like this, complete incompetence, and I'm not just talking about this reading off of an executive order, right? He doesn't know a word, he doesn't know a word. It shows something, but whatever. But his complete lack of control of this war that's going on in Iran. His complete lack of control of the economy, his complete lack of control of anything that's really going on. The guy is lost. He is completely out of his mind, right? And it is Congress's job to check the president when the president is acting like this. And it is about time that they started to do inklings of it, because I tell you what, we need to get some Democrats in there. And I'm not just saying Democrats. I don't just want some Democrats in there, okay? I don't just want some people in there that are just going to maintain the status quo. I want people that are going to fight against this. I want people that are going to fight against this. The people that are going to look at this and go, we are tired of this. Young people. How about some young people in here? How about some brown people, right? How about some young brown? How about an electorate that actually matches the demographics of their constituents, right? How about more women? How about more brown people? How about people that are on fire, your AOCs, right? Your Zorons, right? I know he's doing great stuff in New York. We don't need him in the federal government yet. But we need those people in there. Okay, we need people that are willing to step up, that are willing to fight against this type of administration. We need people in Congress that aren't going to just fold when somebody like Mike Johnson comes knocking at your door. People that actually have conviction, that actually have standing, that actually have a moral standing, that their pocketbook, can't outweigh, that how much money they stick in their pocket can't influence to that point. So we're getting there. I think we're getting there. Midterms. Check your voter rolls, everyone. Sorry, just a quick note. Check to make sure that you haven't been removed from the voter rolls, because I know here, I live in a red state, and I check mine once a month to make sure I'm still registered, because they will take your vote away. They are doing everything in their power to take your vote away. Make sure they can't do it. Well, we've been saying for a long time that MAGA is a cult, but I think it pushes a little bit further when you find someone that's actually in a cult. It looks like Tulsi Gabbard is actually in a cult. She's been following this super religious sect called the Science of Identity Foundation. Apparently, it's led by this guy named Chris Butler, and he's a guy. Let's show a couple clips of him.
So, understanding I'm not my body, that solves this to a large extent. And the other thing that helps a person be free from other people's hatred towards me, helps me be free from someone's hatred towards me because of the color of my body or something, is what? Anyone know? Don't worry, I'll tell you. It is the knowledge that God loves me. The appreciation that God loves me. That guy doesn't love me. Big deal. He doesn't like me because of the color of my skin or because of one reason or another, it doesn't matter. Because my happiness is not going to come from being loved by everyone in the world, but rather it will come from appreciating that the one who is the source of everyone in this world, the Father of everyone in this world, loves me. It's almost like a child, because we are all children of God. It's like a child and we have our common Father. And one of my brothers has gone weird. He's forgot he's my brother. And he's gotten very hateful and envious, and he hates my guts. He doesn't like me. It's a bother when he's around. But when I don't see him, no big deal. You understand that? That just, he'll grow out of it.
The complete lack of understanding of science or water or monuments or cameras. I don't even know what is actually the craziest part of this. So in case you guys have been living under a rock for so long, Donald Trump paid one of his friends like $16 million to paint the bottom of a reflecting pool dark blue, which heated up the water and made the algae grow faster. Now, granted, the reflecting pools had algae problems for a long time, even under the Obama administration, but this heated up the water, caused more algae. So then they decided to pour a bunch of hydrogen peroxide in the pool to try to kill the algae, which then stripped the paint. And now Donald Trump is claiming that people are ripping football field size holes in the reflecting pool with knives, and nobody's catching it. By the way, there is cameras on this thing for the public to see 24/7. That never happened. Okay, that never happened, and the pool is just falling up. So now he's just arresting people. Right? Apparently 6 people have been arrested so far and counting for vandalism on a pool that is messed up because he's created. Here's a video of somebody getting arrested at the pool for picking up algae, right? This isn't vandalism. It's incompetence, all right? Like, the pool is one thing. I think that the majority of Americans couldn't care less what's happening at a pool, right? They do care that incompetence is happening in the White House. And aren't we seeing it everywhere? Right? We're just seeing it at every step of the way, whether it's signing an executive order, whether it's the entire Iran war, from like the smallest little thing of a reflecting pool, right, to the entire conflict in the Middle East. It is incompetence every single step of the way. It never slows down. And this is what we have to stop. This is why we don't hire reality TV shows, to reality TV stars, right? This is why Kamala Harris should have been the president, right? But that's a misogyny and racist conversation that we're not going to have today, but we're going to have very, very soon, all right? We have another great interview. Y'all are really, really going to like this one, I promise you. Please leave a rating, hit the like button, depending on where you're listening to this podcast. Make sure you guys are hitting that follow button and tune in next week. We're going to do this every single Friday. So I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. And thank you so much for watching the Polypolitics podcast, right? Love y'all. After a landmark Supreme Court decision that just happened where Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act was completely weakened by the Supreme Court, Louisiana has become the face of national news. And today we have with us John Day. He is running for the congressional seat in the 3rd District of Louisiana, or what we hope is still the 3rd District of Louisiana after this redistricting is done. And he's going to come talk to us about what's going on with Louisiana, part of his platform as he's running in Louisiana. Welcome to the show, Mr. Day.
Thanks for having me, Christopher. I'm happy to be here, happy to be on this forum and platform, to be seen and heard.
Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. Let's dive right into it. Louisiana is going through a lot of turmoil right now. The Supreme Court has weakened the Voting Rights Act, is specifically in Louisiana, where they tried to add a second primarily black district in Louisiana. And now they have completely stopped the primaries that were supposed to happen earlier this week. We're filming on May 6th, and it was supposed to just happen yesterday, I believe, right?
Primaries would be May 16th. Early
May
voting
16th,
is now, but
May
yeah, they
16th.
stopped. They stopped it on the 1st, and early voting opened on the 2nd. So.
Perfect. That would have been coming up in a couple weeks. And now they've completely stopped that. They're saying they're redrawing all the maps. How does that affect you? How is that affecting Louisiana?
So it's affecting Louisiana. Let's start with Louisiana first and the constituents. It's affecting them by ruining their fair and free elections. The regardless of what goes future, the lines were drawn, the candidates were qualified. These are all state certified candidates. And to stop an election while it's in progress is just un-American. I'm not sure what the end game could be other than the disenfranchisement and the suppression of the vote. How it affects me personally is I am running against Clay Higgins, America's worst congressperson. And so here in the 3rd district, they've got us sort of in what is the boot of the Louisiana. So if you look at Louisiana as a boot, we're in the heel, the southwest corner and sort of the Lafayette, Acadiana, Cajun area. So what they're trying to do is they're going to take Cleo Field's district and sort of dilute the black and brown, the Democratic vote, and sort of pour those into other districts. However, I doubt Steve Scalise and Mike Johnson are going to let them put those kinds of voters in their district. So a lot of it's going to fall into Clay Higgins. It should strengthen the Democratic vote and voice here. But there's a lot of things going on. I mean, I'm part of a federal lawsuit. We were in a closed primary. That closed primary is probably going to be moved to now an open jungle primary, where we'd have to pull Clay down below 49% to have a chance at all.
So you said those voters, and let's call it what it is. They are trying to dilute the black vote in Louisiana, right?
100%.
They are trying to take the black vote, which I believe, if my memory serves me correctly, the black vote is just over 30% of the population in Louisiana, and they are trying to generally nullify it and take that completely away. Where generally that third of Louisiana voters, their vote doesn't really count.
Well, that's the backstory, so you've got, it's actually a little bit more than 33%. So it's a full third. And that was part of the original Supreme Court decision. People don't understand that this is the second of 2 decisions coming out of the Louisiana Congressional District. The first decision was the Louisiana affirmed through the representation that Louisiana is a third black voters. So those black voters should have representation. So you need to go back in and draw a majority black district so those can be done. That was the first Supreme Court ruling. That's what they told Louisiana to do. So we did that. And then so we were challenged on that by essentially the Republicans, who said, look, even though they told you to go back and draw districts that would have these racial representations in them, this new Supreme Court ruling says you can do that, but you can't draw the lines based on race. So, yes, you need a representation for these black voters in Louisiana. Right. No, you can't draw it like you did. So those are the real, that's why I'm running for Congress. I think real complicated stuff at the top, break it down. So my Meemaw and your Meemaw and the college kids who are not paying attention can still understand it, and we can meet them where they're at.
Yeah, what I was going to say, and this is something that actually my listeners don't even really know, I don't believe, is that my dad is originally from Louisiana, right? And he a black man that grew up in Louisiana, long time ago. He's since passed, but he grew up right outside of Minden, Louisiana, on a farm out there, which actually would be part of Mike Johnson's district actually at this time, right? And so they're saying, all right, the argument from Louisiana that went up to the Supreme Court pretty much said it is racist to consider race when building these districts, and then are using that in order to disenfranchise black voters. And I think that can hit us like all really at home, and I don't think that that's necessarily whether you're black or white, or regardless of what race or background that you come from. Disenfranchisement of voters should not happen, right? People should get a vote. We already have a strong enough problem with that in the United States with things like the Electoral College, which is already making some votes more powerful than other people's votes, right? So
correct.
I mean, what do you say? I
DEI
mean,
for the election system.
there you go. Exactly. DEI. That's a very good representation of the Electoral College. And I believe you could call the Senate that also. But living,
Probably.
being down in the southern part of Louisiana, and again, we don't 100% know how your district is going to look just currently, because they're still in the middle of drawing. You guys have a lawsuit that you just brought up where you guys are the plaintiffs in the lawsuit suing over this decision. But I assume that of the previously drawn third district of Louisiana, there is a good population of your voting base, or that would have been in the third district, that is Black. What do you say to them? Like, what do you say to them about this decision, about how you're going to represent them? As a white guy that would be representing them in that district.
So I like to bring this up. I've been told to bring it up a little more carefully than I haven't before, but I appreciate the question. Let me start with that. So most of my friends, family, and close associates don't look like me. I was born in what I call white guy costume, and fully intend to get my way to the table with the rules and the demographics that we have. And I'll be on record, count it for the 117th time. I'm going there to represent all of my constituents, but especially the constituents who have less of a chance of being where I'm at because they don't look like me. We still are playing a rigged game. We are still playing against systematic racism. We are still playing against these people that are getting just hammered by the media that we're the enemies and that Black and brown people are the enemies and the unknown are the enemies. It's very much a us as themism. So what I would say to those voters is, I'm on record now, yesterday, and tomorrow to go and represent you in a fair and honest way so that we can change the system so someone like my daughter, who happens to be a woman, or one of my good friends, Austin, who happens to be a Black man, or my friend Jennifer, who happens to be a Mexican woman. So these kinds of people will have just as much of a chance in our ideal world that we're trying to build as I have now. But I think it's futile. I think it demeans the intelligence of anyone involved to say in 2026 that my daughter or my Mexican friend or my Black and brown friends have equal footing and equal chance with me. It's just not true.
Yeah, and those are a lot of things that are being attacked in the United States, right? We are, especially Black and brown people, women, immigrants in this country are being attacked at like full force. And like I will, be very clear. Like, I have a daughter; she's in high school, right? And she's a young Black woman, and she is about to be a fully grown Black woman. And we live in a red state. We live in Florida, right? And I think with things like what's going on in Louisiana, that's very scary to myself and her mother, and to her, as she is quite keyed in on political situations for a 15-year-old, and I love to
Sure.
see that, but we've seen other disenfranchisement that have happened, across the world. I mean, people are arguing that things like the SAVE Act, or the SAVE Act 2, I guess we're at right now, is going to be disenfranchising many women voters in the United States who have had to change their name, who don't have a passport, who who don't have their original birth certificate for whatever reason. There's multiple reasons why those things happen. What do you think about the SAVE Act? What do you think about how that affects, voting in the United States? What's your opinion on that? I'd like to hear it.
So the SAVE Act is a lot like the Patriot Act. The Patriot Act was named such to invoke emotional response and patriotism while they broke the Fourth Amendment over their knee. All right. The SAVE Act is very, very similar. It's addressing a problem of fraud that does not exist to disenfranchise and make it harder to vote for anyone who, again, doesn't look like me. A woman who is simply has a doctorate and then gets divorced. And I mean, there's all these problems with those simple name changes that just present problems. And it's problems with the people they're trying to vote out. Now, here's something I'll say, and I'm going to be on record for this, so I like to get it out there front. Sometimes when I'm kicking the door open at the VFW and talking to the white guys that are 20 Chevys deep, I'll say things like, hey, listen, I've had to have a voter ID, a normal driver's license, every single time I've had to vote. And I think that's a good thing. And now they're thinking, oh, well, he likes voter ID. No, 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 no. we're having a discussion. Because once we're having a discussion, we can talk about whether it's a poll tax or not. We give criminals, alleged criminals, right? Because of law, we give alleged criminals lawyers, because we don't want to pervert our justice system by saying that someone who is destitute doesn't deserve justice. So the same thing can be applied to, oh, you need to prove who you are? Cool. Well, here, sign your pauper affidavit. Here's your license. Here's your birth certificate. Here's whatever you need. And then once you get your real ID, that should be enough for anyone to vote. And them trying to make it harder is just another way to suppress the vote. Anytime you suppress the vote at all, it has been for a generation or more good for Republicans and bad for Democrats. So you'll continue to see every effort, legal, illegal, and immoral, to continue to try to suppress our vote.
Yeah, and I think that this, but between the SAVE Act, between this redistricting that's going on in Louisiana, it really, really does show how fragile our system is when it comes to people's ability to vote. Right? It's something that, I'm 39 years old. I think I've just taken for granted that I have the right to vote since I was 18 years old. I've taken that for granted, and I think that really kind of puts it in perspective for me, because, hey, that can be taken away from you. It's supposed to be a right under our Constitution, but it has, it can be taken away from you, and it can be taken away from you quickly. And I think that's something that's quite scary.
And I want to just dovetail on what you said. That's scary for you. That's scary for all my black and brown friends. That's scary for any woman who is not saddled up sidecar against her husband's every wish and desire. The problem is the me's, the millions and millions and millions of me's that look like me, who I talk to them and they're like, politics doesn't affect me. Yeah, white guy, I guess not. Not in any unbeneficial way. You know what I mean? So getting the message out, that's why allies are so important. Allies are how we get the message to the masses, whether it's an LGBTQ issue or an NAACP issue or an Equality and Freedom Caucus issue. We have to have as many allies as we can to continue to turn the tides towards the center of America taking back control.
And I totally understand your point. I will say this this one thing kind of as a counter to what you said is, and maybe this is something that you can use, when you're talking to the gentleman in your district. Politics affects all of us. Nobody gets to stay out of politics, period. If you're in the United States, politics affects you. You can try to put your head in the sand. You can try to be an ostrich and pretend like it doesn't affect you. But if you drive on roads, right? If you want the police or the fire department to show up if you have an emergency, if you want to be able to vote in your next election, if you want clean drinking water or not deadly chemicals in your food, guess what? Politics affects you. You don't have a choice. It affects you because all of those things are politics. And I think that's really, really important for everybody to understand.
Agree.
So as we're talking about Louisiana, I think we would be remiss to not talk about two people in your state. And I think we're going to start with Clay Higgins, right? Your opponent, the person that you were running against, or at least were running against before, as we're working out this redistricting thing. He was the only person in Congress to vote against releasing the Epstein files, which is, I don't think something that anybody should be proud of. I don't know whether he is or not. I definitely wouldn't be.
He is.
He is proud of it. Oh, that's even more terrifying, right? But
that means, go ahead, please. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was actually just going to ask you what you think about that. What you think about his decision to not vote for that, and how you would be different. Like, please go ahead.
That decision was one of the main reasons I decided to run against him. Period, point blank. It's one of the big things right at the top of the Clay Higgins hit sheet that lets you know that he's not for the people. When even the entire Congress aligns, that's so rare. That's so rare. And his excuse was that he didn't want innocent people to get hurt. He literally said that. But, you have to go back and understand who this man is as a person. He has a staff of one. He does not have an apartment in D.C. He sleeps on a queen-size mattress in his congressional office. By the way, you get a $2 million staff payroll when you become a U.S. House of Representatives congressperson. You get about $180,000 a year, but you get about $2 million in staff payroll. So I'm kind of wondering what he's doing with the money. This is a person who has held a gun to his wife's head while on the phone with 911, all legitimate. This is a person who owes 6 figures in child support. He's a deadbeat dad, literally, on paper. This is a person who was on record for beating a black man in handcuffs while he was employed by the sheriff's department.
Wow.
So he got popular with his viral videos about being tough on thugs. And if you go watch them, it's tough if you're at all empathetic to the black and brown community because they're dog whistles when he's talking about thugs.
Thugs.
Correct. In a very, like, a very obvious way. So people just like sort of viral entertainment around here. He's the Republican. It's such a sort of Republican area that they voted for him. But I'm going to quickly finish with this. Not only are Mike Johnson and Steve Scalise not taking some of Cleo Field's redistricting Democrats, black and brown people, they're putting him into Clay Higgins' district, which is good for me, I guess. But the simple answer is Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, is one of the most powerful voices in Congress, arguably, and a powerful voice for Louisiana, whether you like him or not. Steve Scalise, the same, powerful voice for Louisiana, whether you like him or not. But these two powerful congressional people will not give Clay Higgins a job, a decent committee, a microphone. They don't take pictures with him. They don't do anything with him because he's literally a dumb, bad cop. Like point blank, he's a dumb, bad cop.
All right.
Now, the Republicans are so cultish that they're not even going to push him out. He's not to like George Santos levels,
Yeah.
They're going to let him sit there and hold that spot. But he's a bootlicking, Iran war loving idiot who doubled down on the mass genocidal statements that our administration put out. He's the worst person in Congress. He's a terrible human being. And I could do a better job than him any day.
It sounds like it definitely sounds like he could, and sounds like most people could, and I think that's really what
The bar isn't that high, but I'm
wasn't
trying
offensive.
real hard,
That wasn't
Christopher.
offensive to you. I'm just saying he sounds
Yeah,
like
no,
just
for
like
sure,
a
for
generally
sure. I'm
bad
just teasing.
person,
Yeah.
But I was looking at the stats from this last election. He carried District 3 by 50 points, 50 plus
That's correct.
points, 50
That's
plus
correct.
points. So you hear all these bad things. You hear about, about things that he's doing as far as racist dog whistles, about, being tough on thugs, which we all know is a dog whistle for just any black person that, they don't find, favorable in their eyes for whatever
That's
reason.
correct.
And you see that, right? And then you're like, wow, that sounds horrible. And then you see the other side, it's like, oh, he won by 50 points. What does that really say about the district that you're going to be running in, about the ideals of the people in that district? And that's not to disenfranchise your voters or to talk bad about them. I'm just saying, like,
Sure.
these are the facts of the situation. And do you have the ability to catch up to that? Like, I mean, that's a
Here's my
huge
path to
margin, right?
victory. Yeah, for sure. Here's my path to victory. I saw these things and studied these things. 220,000 votes for him, about 100,000 votes for the combined rest of the Democrats. Priscilla, when she ran, Tia under her, and then Tia before that. And not with no disrespect intended at all, I need to carefully say we haven't put up a candidate who can give Clay Higgins a fight for his money yet. Back to your original statement, without pandering, there are people who will vote for me that will never vote for a Tia LeBrun or a Priscilla Gonzalez or anyone else. One of the reasons I'm running, because every time we put some, I say we's the Democrats, no parties, every time we put somebody against Clay the last couple of times, it's never been someone of real substance who is really qualified to run, who can pull all the endorsements like I do. I mean, I already have the SWLA builders and trade. I'm working on the trial attorneys. I've got the Black Caucus, the LGBTQ caucus. I'm the state endorsed party Democrat. So I'm building a true coalition. I have a true political team. I have a real office downtown. And this is the first time that he's ever had the potential to face a real opponent. That's number one. Number two is he's been in there for 6 years and hadn't done anything. And that's pretty much public knowledge. His neighbors hate him at this point, his literal next door neighbors, because he has sort of done a water boy, is what we like to say, on our reputation. I mean, everyone loves The Waterboy. It's a great movie. Adam Sandler's a wonderful fella. But people from Louisiana don't like to be represented that way, just like you probably don't like to be represented by every Florida man article, right?
That's for
It's
sure.
right. It's an embarrassment. And so this, we have an embarrassment on a national scale. People know nationally this dude. And the third thing I'll say is after I signed up and ran, and I realized I could build a coalition of Democrats, I went to the small towns, the Iotas, the Crowleys, the Camerons, the small towns. And I went and literally kicked the doors open of the local VFW with all the Chevys out front. And I walk into 20 white dudes, and all of them have some form of American Eagle motorcycle.
Yeah.
It's a red MAGA demographic. And feeling like Daniel in the lion's den, I know I'm not coming out with a bunch of disciples, but every time I leave that situation, 4 or 5 of them take a card, call me later, are tired of their stuff, would rather vote for a good, what do you call me the other day? I'd rather vote for a good old blue dog Democrat than this fool Clay Higgins.
Yeah.
And I haven't voted for a Democrat in 12 years. So those are my paths to victory. That I am a qualified candidate who's building a coalition of real money, people, national attention. I'm trying to get on Tim Miller's radar and a couple other people that I've reached out to. Clay Higgins has literally, can I say shit the bed in his,
Go ahead.
with his office tenure, and has proven to even his ardent supporters that he's not the right person for the job. And number 3 is when I get out in the fields, I do quick math. 220,000 people voted, 100,000 for the Democrats. That's 320. It's going to be cut down to about 250, my estimate.
Right.
And so what I need is every single Democrat that voted for everybody to vote for me. And then I need about 25,000 Clay voters to vote for me, and the other ones to just basically stay home. And they will, from what I'm seeing. And that's a real path to victory and a real path to change. Scalise and Johnson are about to weaken him by putting these other black and brown voters in our district. And I do believe with the right amount of support, I will see this 3rd congressional district, no matter how they draw it, flip blue.
So I do have to ask you this question, and you don't have to answer this question if you don't want to, okay? Because it is going to be a very direct question, okay?
I love it. Let's go.
I have to ask you
the preamble. Let's go.
I do think that there's an important preamble to this because it
Okay.
belongs to more national politics, right? The question is are you saying you have a bigger advantage in your district because you're a white man? That's the question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. And
100%.
okay.
I think anybody that muddles that water or tries to say that that's not true is not objectively looking at the situation. Okay.
Yeah.
Point blank. Now, I want to be on record and be very staunch and vehemently clear. That's a bad thing. That's a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's a bad thing for my daughter. It's a bad thing for your daughter. It's a bad thing for every black and brown person who might be more qualified and better at this job than me, but they're not here in this race.
Yeah.
I want to go to Congress, sign a 6-year term limit pledge, and then within 6 years, find somebody like a Tia LeBrun who's in the race with me.
Yeah.
And if bring her into the campaign, bring her into the congressional office, and groom, I hate that word, but to set her up to be the next person. These are my political objectives, are to acknowledge these kinds of questions and these kinds of facts head on, no bullshit, and say, now, how do we change it? Because if we keep running people that are disadvantaged, that's good for principles, right? But does it get us any further in the game?
Yeah. Well, and the reason why I wanted to ask that question so directly, and it's because we just saw this Senate primary in Texas, right? Where, and I don't know how familiar you are with that. I'm not
Jasmine?
trying to say either way. Yeah, with Jasmine and James Tallarico, right? And a lot of the arguments that I heard regarding James Tallarico and the voters in Texas voting for him over Jasmine Crockett was simply because in Texas they believed that a white man had a better chance of taking, of flipping that seat Democratic than a black woman did. And I agree with you 100% that that it shouldn't be that way. But I think that the argument is still out there, especially after we just, after Kamala Harris just lost the last election. And so, we're seeing this trend of specifically, women, black and brown women that are running for office, that are being taken away, whether that's in a primary, whether that's in a general, whatever it is, they are being taken away, by white men counterparts. And it just is what it is. And so you're right. I don't think that we should avoid the question. Thank you for answering it very directly. I really do appreciate that.
I think geography has a lot to do with it. I don't think this is an issue in Vermont. I don't think this is an issue in Minnesota. I don't think this is an issue in places where equality for black and brown people has been a more accessible reality than it has. I mean, Jim Crow laws are in the South. Look at where they're trying to redistrict. Look at the red states that they're trying to do this to. Right. So I think it's just as much of an acknowledgement of, hey, this game is rigged. How do we rig it and then make the game more fair for the next player?
All right. Well, I appreciate your answer to that. I really, really do. The other person, hey, we got way off on Clay Higgins. I love that. That's great. Let's talk about Mike Johnson for a second. Mike Johnson, Louisiana senator, Louisiana representative, I believe District 2 or 4. 4. Oh, I knew I was gonna catch it. Mike Johnson, right. District 4.
You're gonna like what I have to say about Mike. Well, I don't know if you've got a bleep button, but get ready.
But yeah, he's very influential, like you said, in Louisiana. He's very influential. I mean, he's third in line to the presidency as Speaker of the House. I mean, one of the most influential people in politics in the United States, and he has been.
Yeah, they don't even let him drive anymore.
He has been, if nothing else, very. I'm trying to say this politely. Very loyal to Trump in everything that he's done, with the things that he's allowed on the House floor, with the speeches that he's made. He has been incredibly loyal to Donald Trump, and he's been very loyal to specifically like Christian nationalist policies in the United States, right? And
correct. America first is what you hear about that.
We hear
patriotism and Christian nationalism.
Right. Well, I wanted to bring that up. I wanted to hear your thoughts on Mike Johnson, on his Christian nationalism, and we'll just start there. Like, how do you feel about Mike Johnson and his Christian nationalist beliefs, and how he's kind of navigated the political scene in DC?
No party has a lock on faith or family. The Republicans have tried to lock both of those down for a generation, and that's just not true. Families can look like Norman Rockwell paintings, or they can look like a cast photo from the Sesame Street, right? Like, that's family. Family is the people that you love, and the people that love you. I've said this many times. I'm gonna say it for you and your audience. Forgive me. I don't blame a toddler for shitting its pants and screaming and throwing ketchup at the wall. Like, I don't blame that toddler. If you are that mentally, that's where you're at. It's hard to hold someone like that accountable. And I'm speaking, of course, of President Donald J. Trump. The problem is the person I hold the most responsible for all of the problems that we have in America right now isn't Donald Trump. It isn't the toddler shitting his pants and screaming. It is Mike Johnson, who keeps letting the Article I power be drawn and drawn and drawn away from the legislative branch into the executive branch. The Supreme Court is what it is. They set Project 2025 up. They did it. Peter Thiel, they stacked them all up. But Peter Thiel is literally a rapture dude that believes in the Antichrist. Like, we really need to have the powers and levers at the top of our governmental system not preparing for Armageddon, like in some sort of dystopian sci-fi movie, okay? Mike Johnson is the Speaker of the House, and he is literally the person I hold the most responsible for what's going on. He could have stopped the tariffs. He could have stopped the Iran war. He could have stopped everything. He literally has that power, and that's why you see this bulldozing and bulldozing and bulldozing that we've seen in the last 12 months with Congress, is because there is no agenda that's for the American people that puts Americans first.
Right.
The agenda is Christian nationalism, chasing goose-stepping Israelis into wars, and ego projects. Like, I mean, how long? I mean, can you go on Kalshi and figure out what's the bet for Donald Trump to add his face to Mount Rushmore as the 5th one? Because it's probably on there. I'll put it on there later if it's not. But the
It's
simple
definitely on there. I don't know what it
You
is,
know
but
what I
I
mean?
guarantee you
Like,
it's on there. Yeah.
why are we allowing them to lie to our face? Why are we allowing Congress to get away with this? And the simple answer is we're not. You watch Steve Karnacki, you watch the polls, you watch shows like yours, and people are pissed off. They're ready for a change.
Yeah.
It's the writing is on the wall. So these neocon Christian nationalists, authoritarian wannabe, dictator wannabe, and they're all dumb too. That's a way they should have kept smart people around. They got people like Pete Hegseth and Laura Loomer. They're all just dumb. But you get all these people together, and that's the kind of Gilead reference to, you know, that show, that's the kind of Gilead that they're trying to bring. And the simple answer is it's not the America that I love and believe in. It's not the Americans that I want to represent. I was taught that my greatest duty as an American was to love and care for my neighbor, not if they do, but especially when they look different and believe differently from I do. That's what makes America great, and they've forgotten it. That's why I'm for Americans first, not American first. It's a different platform.
Well, yeah, and you've seen this rhetoric out of Mike Johnson and plenty of people. It's funny enough, I actually just had this conversation on my show last night where I was saying very similar to what you just said about Donald Trump, and it Donald Trump is only allowed to do the things that Donald Trump is allowed to do because the legislative branch is pretty much given up its power to check
That's
him,
it.
right? That the people
it.
in the White House just yes man him, and they'll go out and do whatever he wants, whether it's his cabinet, whether it's the legislature. Like those are the people that are making these things turn. Those are the people that are allowing this stuff. When every single one of them could put their foot down and say, "Hey, this is what the Constitution of the United States says. This is what America actually really is, and we're not going to let you, even if you are the president, to do these things because we have checks and balances in this country, right? We have these things for a
Correct.
reason, and they're just not being used."
Correct. And look, there's certain things that Mike Johnson and Congress can't do anything about. Like, look at who Trump has pardoned in his first year of office. The amount of multi-billion-dollar fraud that he has outright pardoned with the only king-like power he has, and to completely get these people out of the accountability to the American people. Now he's bringing them back in as investors in his Trump coins and his Don Jr.'s coked out drone company projects. Like, it is, the grift is on, the fix is in, and people are going to rise up and vote and do something about it, or they're going to lose their chance to do so in the future.
Yeah, and I think the American people will do that exact thing because I think that the American people aren't stupid, right? And you know, we're seeing the numbers, we're seeing all this stuff. People do not support this war in Iran. Period. This is like the
Right.
lowest approval rating going into a war ever in the U.S. history, and that includes Vietnam. Like this is the lowest approval of any war in existence. But it's some of the rhetoric that is coming out of this, which is I think is even crazier, right? Like we're talking about this Christian nationalist thing. Mike Johnson is a big proponent of that, and a lot of that is demonization of of the Muslim community, whether that's in the United States, whether it's in places like Minnesota, or if it's the people of Iran and what's going on over there. And let me be very clear, I have absolutely no qualms about saying this. The Iranian regime is horrible. I do not support the Ayatollah or anyone in that regime, right? But it's become less about that regime and more about an attack on Muslims as a whole, and that's something
Right.
that I have a big problem with. So I was just wondering what you think and how you fit into that situation.
Yeah, where's MBS and all this? That's MBS and Jared Kushner. That's where keep your eye on those two. MBS is a trillionaire. He's not on Forbes' list. He's the richest man in the world. He's running Saudi Arabia, except for anybody who's catching up. Now, what you want to go back to is I'm a white guy, and I understand the difference between Sunni and Shia. And to understand a lot of the Muslim problems in the world, you have to quickly educate yourself on Sunni and Shia. They're two different kinds of Muslims. I might be mansplaining to a lot of you, but the simple answer is the Iranis are a different kind of Muslims from most of the Saudis. And the Saudis have always, there's been a lot of subjugation back and forth, but when you've got the Saudis and the Israelis together using America as proxy to attack their common enemy, like, there you go. I let it all out. It's not hard to figure out, but the propaganda is thick. The propaganda is bad. The propaganda is nonstop. Iran is no closer to a nuclear weapon than they've been for a long, long time. We literally are dealing with a president who, wanted to go to war with journalists, suing people over the word obliterated. And, not very much longer, we have to go back and dig the uranium up. It's all bullshit. It's all bullshit for neocon wars. We are dangerously low on ammunitions and missiles and everything else. And the stockpiling, and those people being in the administration, are literally on their investment platforms, buying stock trades in defense and drone companies and munition companies, while at the same time betting on Kalshi and Polymarket and things like that, based on tweets. $590 million oil trade made 15 minutes that they made a quick 400 million and cashed out. Like, how is it that we as a population can now see these trades being made, but we have to protect the anonymity of these oligarchs who are betting on our future while they control it?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, man. 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 50 years ago, I would have just been a guy running for Congress. Today I feel like my life's on the line. I feel like I'm in like the real rebellion in Star Wars. I feel like I am going to be labeled a domestic terrorist because of my progressive views. I am not fearful of the retaliation that comes with the fight, but I'm in recognition of the fact that this is not a normal election. This is not a normal election season, and that I've got a good chance of winning and losing at the same time.
Wow. Well, I think that's a great way to put it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being on the show. I really, really appreciate you, and thank you for filling us in with what happens in Louisiana. Maybe we'll have you back on the show after we find out what Louisiana is going to be doing and after the decision. But thank you so much for being here. I really, really appreciate you.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here. As soon as I get the primary sorted out or have any news on the lawsuit, I'll jump back in and get with you.
Perfect. Sounds great. Have a good one.
Thanks. Vote for the day you deserve.
There you go. All right, everyone.
All right.
John Day, Louisiana 3rd.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Poly Politics Podcast on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.